Victim advocate is a person who helps a victim of crime throughout the judicial process. So beginning when the crime is reported, the emotional support through the trauma, and then we work together throughout the court proceedings. Sometimes that takes a long time, and so during that time we're also working with counselors and crime victims reparations, and I just see the victim all the way through until there's a sentencing or a resolution to the criminal case, and sometimes even after that we work together. There is a stigma, and many victims are ashamed or blame themselves, and their abusers do that to them. They tell them that it's all their fault, and the reason that this is happening is because they did something wrong or they didn't do something right. And so a lot of times people are embarrassed to talk about it. Maybe they just want to appear as if everything's fine. There are so many barriers to getting out of an abusive relationship. Of course, the worry that the abuse will continue or get worse, financial problems. There's limited housing for a place for people to go, and the statistics show that a victim leaves or attempts to leave at least 7 times before they actually are able to get out of an abusive relationship. And now with this coronavirus or COVID-19, we've just added another barrier. Because of COVID-19, I can no longer meet in person or respond to the scene of the incident. I'm used to having a meeting at my office to discuss protective orders. So that has changed in that I now do that over the phone. I'm absolutely still here to do that. I just do it over the phone or online. I send a lot of information out through email and refer to websites that could be helpful for the victim. There is a crisis center in Utah County, and it is still open and running. They are taking precautions because of COVID-19, and the intake process is still the same. There's a 24/7 crisis line, a hotline that a victim can call at any time and go through the process of being screened, and the shelter will let them know if there is room available. Because of COVID-19, they are not able to take as many people because of the distancing. If they don't have room at this shelter, they discuss other options. The number one priority is keeping the person and their family, their children, safe. And so we want to find a safe place for them to go. The court has made available, and this was not an option prior to COVID-19, they have made available a link to go online and to fill out the petition for protective order or stalking injunction and submit that online. Whereas before that needed to be turned in person at the courthouse. They are also now doing hearings over the phone. So they get the petitioner, the respondent, any attorneys involved, as well as the commissioner, all on a line. They do a conference call and a decision is made because these are very important and need to be addressed as soon as possible. Court-ordered protection is very important to a victim of domestic violence in that it is an order signed by a judge to keep the abuser away. And if they don't stay away, if they continue to contact the victim, harassing them, showing up, texting them, whatever it may be, that is another crime, and that is punishable by a misdemeanor. And where the court has extended almost all civil and criminal matters until at least June, the fact that protective orders are going forward is very important because time is of the essence. If the court order is not in place and an abuser goes back to the victim, back to the home, there's nothing the police can do. If a protective order is granted and approved by the judge, the police now have a way to get the abuser away and keep them away from the victim. There was a woman who lived in a townhome. She was separated from her spouse, and he came in the middle of the night with a baseball bat, and he was able to get into the home. He was destroying things, and he was yelling. There was a lot of noise, and in this townhome community, this woman had neighbors on either side of her, and after the crime was reported, she stated she felt strongly that her neighbors could hear what was happening, and no one called. She was the one that had to get to a phone and call 911 during the assault. And I would just say, please, if you hear a commotion like that, if you hear something suspicious or concerning, call it in. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to get involved other than making that phone call to help a neighbor, to help a loved one, whoever it may be, to get to safety. I will say that the police responded, they arrived, and she's okay. And he's now in jail. He's now in custody. The police are out there and they're still working and they're doing a great job. They are being very careful as they respond to calls, and they are responding to emergency calls in any way that they're reported. So we appreciate law enforcement and all they're doing to do their jobs. They are taking precautions. They are using PPE and when they go into homes, and if possible, their backup officer will stay a little further back, depending on the situation. In domestic violence incidents, when reported, police respond. This is an emergency for the people in the home, whether it's reported by a neighbor, whether it's reported by the victim. The officers are responding. They have been trained and they know what they need to do when they arrive on scene to protect themselves. And they are still responding. They're there for you. They're going to help you. If there is someone quarantined with their abuser and maybe their children living in that difficult situation, of course, in the worst case, I would say call 911, get the police there to help you. If it's a situation where you can start researching and safety planning, I would recommend going to thehotline.org. This is the National Domestic Violence website, and there is so much good information on there. Safety planning while staying, planning to leave, emergency information. Those are the best ways, I believe, to get help or to begin to figure out how to get out of that abusive situation. Professor and researcher Brené Brown has said about this pandemic, we can be our worst selves when we're afraid, or our very best, bravest selves. There is often very little in between. We don't have to be scary when we're scared. Let's choose awkward, brave, and kind, and let's choose each other. If you're in an abusive relationship, if you're a neighbor or someone who is concerned about someone that may be in an abusive situation, please reach out. We're here to help you. Contact the Spanish Fork Police Department. We may have to do things a little bit differently, but we are still here for you, and all of the resources are still available, and we want to help.